I win, they win. I ain't never tripping on shit. All my brothers be moving together, we moving as one. All my brothers be moving together, we moving as one. All my brothers be moving together, we moving as one. In the storm, I ride with my brothers. Cause when I win, they win. A lot of people keep asking, what does this mean for the whole? What does this mean for the whole collective? You know, this war, idea of war, so on and so forth. And, you know, Trump has opened up the door for a lot of transparency, if I could say so myself. But the possibilities of what this war could mean and what this means for us as a whole, what this means for the U.S., we're going to get into that today on what this could mean for everybody. But first, we have to look at these lines, right? These war lines. We have to take a look at these war lines and how they are affected, you know, because they're saying the maps, this is going to change. This is going to change, right? This map, these areas, is going to change.
The Russians now control.
Yeah, David, this is a map that shows 3.5 years ago, where you see here's the totality of Ukraine. Here are the small areas that were owned by partisan separatists in Crimea and this part of the Donbass. Let's move forward to today. We see the region here, it's about 20% of Ukraine that the Russians have taken control.
You said did they or do they?
This is the front line here that delineates where the fighting is occurring. You can see that here what we have is...
Let's get a better one. Let's get a better one to look at. I think this one is explained better.
Territory.
This one might be explained a lot better.
One of the key ones.
Now, don't mind that it's reversed right now. Don't mind that it's reversed.
It isn't going to be part of that negotiation. It is worth pointing out that Crimea was originally part of the Soviet Union. They'd fought hundreds of years ago for the strategically important port of Sevastopol down in the south there. In 1954, Khrushchev had handed that to Ukraine, largely for administrative purposes, when Ukraine was actually just a county of the Soviet Union at the time. Of course, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia and Ukraine very nearly went to war over Crimea, and there was an accommodation made at the time. And of course, but now that's why in 2014, following about 2 decades of Ukraine starting to look further to the west for economic support, and with NATO starting to become on the agenda, that the Russians moved into Crimea. Now, having got in there, it'd be incredibly difficult military operation to liberate that. And that's why many people think that Crimea is not a useful negotiating tool at the moment. Having moved into that, though, Russia built a bridge across the Kursk to actually join this to Russia itself. But of course, that was incredibly vulnerable. And as the years went by, that's
If
why
you're in the
Russia
Discord
had
right now,
started a
come
sort of
on up in the
insurgency up
Discord.
the Donetsk region
If you're in the
and tried to
Discord right
build this
now, come
land
on
bridge
up into
across the
the
region.
room,
Now,
and
why
you
the
could be
focus
heard
on
too from the
Donbass
Discord.
region?
Let your voice
Well,
be
a lot of its
heard.
mineral resources and the like. This is the one area that Russia hasn't yet taken. But this isn't about just trying to get to the borders. It's not like they're trying to secure Somerset. Why is this actually key? If we zoom in a little bit further, there's a line of cities, line of towns, sorry, based
That's
on
Russia's
road
now.
junctions and
Ain't
rail
no giving it
junctions,
back.
strategically important, that are, if they are going to be very
This is what I'm
difficult for
saying.
Russia
Like,
to take.
these are the lines that are going to change. Like, so if they do come up with an agreement, right? If an agreement is had upon this, these are the new territorial lines, right? These are the new lines, right? Can Ukraine stop Russia? Really, a lot of the stuff that's happening, we can't really say, right? There's a lot of things that are in play right now that we can't really say, that's happening. So, however you look at this, it's not really about whether they can stop them. They held them off this far, with the help and support of others, right? You say yes or no? Yes. Yes, they can stop them because the support that they have, right? The support that they have. You got to remember, Putin started this and he thought it was going to be 3 days, right? He thought he was going to have it over 3 days, 3 weeks, right? And we're going into 3 years. So, yes, they have held off. They have done a great job holding off. I mean, they held off enough to put Putin at the table, right? Whereas though before they said they couldn't get no type of, nothing out of it. They couldn't get no type of leeway out of it, right? Then why is that territory getting bigger? I'll get back to you on that one.
If you remember the battle for Bakhmut back 18 months ago, about 60,000 people died in that battle about 18 months. So it's really difficult for any of these to fall. Russia is, of course,
nobody asked Putin to the table until Donald Trump did.
Then there is the danger
You're right.
that Ukrainian nature cuts the land bridge and therefore isolates the Crimea. From a Ukrainian perspective, if these were to fall, there's lots and lots of free area up here that Russia could actually rampage across. The real key here, though, is what is going on in President Putin's mind.
Now,
Is his ambition
really, if we're looking at this, peace for Ukraine could mean for the United States. Let's start there. Peace for the Ukraine and what it could mean to Europe, right? Shout out to the Atlas family for always, pulling up stuff when needed. I'm not sure if both of these are the same. Let's go over this one. Okay, what could this mean for the U.S.?
Policy brief. What peace in Ukraine could mean for the United States. The prospect of peace in Ukraine carries different implications for U.S. strategy depending on the balance of concessions and outcomes. In the optimistic scenario, a just peace reinforces NATO unity, deters further Russian aggression, and affirms U.S. leadership in global security. American defense and energy industries benefit from renewed trust in transatlantic cooperation, while U.S. credibility with Asian partners is strengthened by demonstrating resolve against authoritarian expansion. In a compromise peace, the fighting halts but Ukraine cedes some territory or sovereignty, producing a frozen conflict. Here, the U.S. is seen as effective at crisis management but limited in securing justice, creating doubts among allies about Americans staying power.
That is true.
A pessimistic peace, however, would see Russia rewarded for its invasion, undermining international law and emboldening rivals from Beijing to Tehran. Such an outcome risks portraying the U.S. as overstretched and unreliable, accelerating multipolar fragmentation. In short, peace is not inherently positive. It could mark U.S. strategic strength, fragile containment, or outright decline. The word peace sounds universally good, but in practice, the terms and balance of power behind it matter far more than the ceasefire itself. In an optimistic peace, the U.S. emerges stronger, its alliances fortified, and its global standing elevated. In a compromise peace, the U.S. looks competent but limited, able to stop the worst but not restore justice fully. In a pessimistic peace, the U.S. risks being seen as overstretched, unreliable, or even in retreat. So peace isn't one outcome, it's three futures on a spectrum: victory, stalemate, or strategic loss.
Now that's a good analogy right there. That is a great analogy. Shout out to the Atlas family. That's a great analogy right there. I mean, when you're looking at peace, you have to really look at what type of peace we are actually asking for with this, right? What type of peace are we actually asking for when we say peace, right? So that's a strong point right there within itself, right? And then when you're looking at this, the concept of peace is very, it depends on the powers that be, right? What peace really is. So it's a balance, but I'm liking the breakdown. The optimistic peace, the U.S. emerges strong, an alliance fortified, and its global standings elevated, right? Let's look at that one. And here's the problem with that one. Putin is not going to, take credit for the crimes that committed or anything that was done during this time, right? He's not going to take credit for none of that. He's not going to actually say, yes, we did this. Yes, this is what we did, so on and so forth, right? So that's compromise peace. The U.S. will, limited. And that could be more so, possible on what the lines are looking like, right? Praise Trump. Nobody has asked Putin to the table until Donald Trump. Okay. What do you guys think? I need to see some more activity in the comment section in order for us to keep this conversation going. I need to see more activity in the comment section. If you coming in, put where you coming in from, whatever it is that you do. We're going to keep exploring this. We're going to keep breaking this down. The peace, and let's listen to what it could mean for Europe, right? It could strengthen Europe in a way, but at the same time, this is where India comes in. You notice that Putin might be having conversations with India, so on and so forth, right? Now, as we move forward with this, we're going to get better and better at bringing you this. Make sure you put your notifications on. Make sure you tap the screen.
Peace in Ukraine carries divergent futures depending on how it is secured. In the optimistic scenario, a fair settlement reaffirms European unity, strengthens NATO's deterrence, and reduces refugee and energy pressures.
Next time
Europe
I'll just read
resources
it
from war support toward economic recovery,
or break it down
green
in the
energy,
best way I
and
can.
rebuilding Ukraine with the EU positioned as a credible guarantor of regional stability. A just peace would also restore confidence in Europe's ability to protect its borders against aggression, while deepening transatlantic ties. In a compromise peace, fighting ends but Russia retains some gains, leaving Eastern Europe anxious and NATO's credibility tested. Refugee burdens may ease, yet long-term insecurity persists at the EU's eastern flank, forcing Europe to maintain high defense spending and vigilance. In the pessimistic scenario, Europe faces a fractured world in which Russia is seen as rewarded for aggression. This outcome could embolden further destabilization.
The static is from when I charge it up. I gotta remind myself to take it out the charger.
With Moscow, and expose Europe as a security consumer rather than a security provider. Thus, peace could herald a stronger Europe, a fragile equilibrium, or a fractured continent.
I mean, is this a better way of getting, Ukraine into NATO? If they say that they agree upon losing this land and giving up this land in order to get these securities, because that's what it is, right? I mean, they can say, okay, we'll give up this land, but we're going to need these securities, right? Because that's what we're talking about, these securities, right? Also, on TikTok, if you want to come up in the box, feel free to come up in the box. If you have anything to add to the conversation, feel free to join the box on TikTok. Right? I mean, if they give up the land, that would be the only way the Ukrainian president comes out looking victorious. If they say, all right, we're going to lose this land, we're going to get our prisoners of war back, we're going to get our, people back, right? And, we're going to lose this land, but we're going to be introduced into NATO through Section 5, whatever, category, Article 5, however it looks, right? So you have that. Triggs, what's good with you? What time you playing the game later on, man? I was going to try to run duos and just build content. My numbers are looking good when I stream the game, but I also still do this type of content too over on YouTube. So everything's looking great all around the board. So, you know what I mean? But I still want to build, this gaming, profile or whatever. I just ain't got the people to build the content with. So I'm slowly but surely. But I figure if I mix all of it together and just bring it all ahead, have something for people to do at all times, between gaming on TikTok, coming over to YouTube, speaking knowledge and wisdom, dropping this, even branching into this political, you know what I'm saying? All right, bet. Let me know what time you're trying to jump on, and then we'll do that. I got some people in the Discord that's willing to come over and tap the screen. Disliked by... Okay, Joe Mama. Peace out. Appreciate you for stopping through. Can you hit the like button on the way out? You just hit the like button on the way out?
Still to take the whole of Ukraine, or is it simply to secure this land bridge? If it's just the land bridge, then the conversation is about territory and it's about security guarantees, and therefore there's just the faintest prospect of a negotiated settlement. If actually Putin's ambition is still the whole of Ukraine, then I'm afraid all of this is just window dressing. It's Putin playing for time, and frankly, we're no closer to any sort of solution than we were a few weeks ago.
Here, interacting with humanity, and these include
So, Trump is opening up the door for full transparency on a lot of things, right? And maybe if we come to some type of understanding on the peace, then maybe we could figure out what's going on with these aliens and everything like that, right? Just maybe. If we could be at peace with each other, then we can figure some other shit out. Like this 3-eye atlas that's headed this way, Maybe, just maybe.
Identified submerged objects in the ocean, we should not turn a blind eye, but instead boldly face this new reality and learn from it. Additionally, at a time when leaders in government leave much to be desired, I feel obligated to show moral leadership on this issue of UAP disclosure by validating the credibility of the courageous men and women who have come out as witnesses and whistleblowers to expose the truth. My speaking out has encouraged others to do the same, and it may It's my hope over time that a number of your constituents
Appreciate the likes.
will want to know the truth and about UAP, and this number will increase to such an extent that the congressional action I have just recommended will become inevitable. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. I will now recognize Mr. Elizondo for his opening statement.
Greetings, Chairwoman Mace, Chairman Grothman, ranking members Connolly and Garcia, and members of the committee. It is my honor and privilege to testify before you on the issue of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, formerly known as UFOs. On behalf of our brave men and women in uniform and across the intelligence community, as well as my fellow Americans who have awaited this day, thank you for your leadership on this important matter. Let me be clear, UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives. And
Love is
oversight
love,
bodies.
love is love, Mama D.
For many
Appreciate
years,
you
I
for
was
stopping
entrusted with
through.
protecting some of our nation's most sensitive programs. In my last position, I managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council. As such, I appreciate the need to protect certain sensitive intelligence and military information. I consider my oath to protect secrets as sacred, and I will always put the safety of the American people first. With that said, I also understand the consequences
Mislocated
of
is a
excessive
powerful
secrecy
word.
and stovepiping. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the aftermath of 9/11, which many of us remember all too well. I believe that America's greatness depends on three elements. A watchful Congress, B, a responsive executive branch, and C, an informed public. Over the last decade and a half, I
Let's get
learned
to
that certain
informing
UAP
the
programs were
public.
and are operating without any of these elements. Although much of my government work on the UAP subject still remains classified, excessive secrecy has led to grave misdeeds against loyal civil servants, military personnel, and the public, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. A small cadre within our own government involved in the UAP topic has created a culture of suppression and intimidation that I've personally been victim to, along with many of my former colleagues. This includes unwarranted criminal investigations, harassment, and efforts to destroy one's credibility. Most Americans would be shocked to learn that the Pentagon's very own Public Affairs Office openly employs a professional psychological operations officer as the singular point of contact for any UAP-related inquiries from citizens and the media. This is unacceptable. Many of my former colleagues and I have provided classified testimony to both the Department of Defense and the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Many of us have subsequently been targeted by this cabal with threats to our careers, our security clearances, and even our lives. This is
Stop right there. The cabal, man. Sounds like the government more scared of conspiracy theorists than the people that's actually talking about conspiracy theory shit. At least we talking about that shit, right? So I'm talking about it. You talking about it. We talking about it. The Great Awakening Map is talking about it. The Pentagon talking about it. Y'all scared to talk about it. See, that's why over in the gaming community, we not scared. You know what I'm saying? That's why we wire our mind for Call of Duty. You feel me? Cause we wired for this shit. You know what I'm saying? We ready to raw jump and some more shit. Slide cancel and some other shit. You know what I'm saying? We prepared for aliens to return. That's why we keep our mind in that gaming community. We ready for anything. If they came and told us motherfucking Green Lantern was real, where my ring at? You know what I'm saying? We ain't about to panic. We ain't about to grow gray hairs, none of that shit. Where my ring at? Got some fighting to do. You know what I'm saying? We ready. We know this assimilation. We is ready. We almost prepared for anything. Jump on out. Try it. I'm telling you, our minds is wired for this shit. We need disclosure. The people is ready to know.
Is wrong. To fix these problems, I propose 3 principal actions. First, Congress and the President should create a single point of contact responsible for a whole-of-government approach to the UAP issue. Currently, the White House, CIA, NASA, the Pentagon, Department of Energy, and others play a role, but no one seems to be in charge, leading to unchecked power and corruption. Second, we need a national UAP strategy that will promote transparency and help restore the American public's trust at a time when the public's trust is at an all-time low.
Wait,
This strategy should
so is
include-
the American people the only people that don't know about this shit? Because they not saying the rest of the world. They like the American people's trust and American. Is the American people the only ones that don't know about this shit? Everybody else, public is informed. Like all the other countries' publics are informed and shit. Everybody else knew about fire in the sky and shit, huh? Everybody else knew about it, huh? It was just us. Us. The Americas. Damn.
a whole-of-government approach, including the academic and scientific communities, the private sector, and our international partners and allies. Third, Congress should create a protected environment so whistleblowers desperate to do the right thing can come forward without fear. As it currently stands, these whistleblowers suffer because of stigma, a code of silence, and concerns about retaliation. These whistleblowers should be encouraged to come forward in ways that protect them against any forms of retaliation. Policies and procedures should ensure that protection, and for those who refuse to cooperate, it is up to the members of this committee and other lawmakers to wield their subpoena power against hostile witnesses and prevent additional government funding to those UAP efforts that remain hidden from congressional oversight. In closing, we as Americans have never been afraid of a challenge. In fact, we thrive on them, whether it's eradicating polio or going to the moon. We don't run from a challenge, we take it head on. To the incoming administration and Congress, I say to you, we need immediate public transparency. And this hearing is an important step on that journey. If we approach the UAP topic in the same way as we as Americans have met other challenges, we can restore our faith in our government institutions. Together, we can usher in a new era of accountable government and scientific discovery. I believe that we as Americans can handle the truth. And I also believe the world deserves the truth. Thank you, esteemed members of Congress, for your time today. It is profoundly appreciated by many.
Thank you. I ask unanimous consent for Representatives Ogles of Tennessee and Beaupert of Colorado to be waived onto the subcommittee for today's joint subcommittee hearing for the purpose
This
of
goes
asking
into the
questions
multidimensional
without objection,
beings.
so ordered. I would now like to recognize Mr. Schellenberger for his introductory remarks.
Chairwoman Mace, Chairman Grothman, Ranking Member Connolly, Ranking Member Garcia, members of the subcommittees, thank you for inviting my testimony. One of Congress's most important responsibilities is oversight of the executive branch in general and the military and intelligence community in particular. Unfortunately, there is a growing body of evidence that the U.S. government is not being transparent about what it knows about unidentified anomalous phenomena, and that elements within the military and the IC are in violation of their constitutional duty to notify Congress of their operations. President-elect Donald Trump and former President Barack Obama have both said that the government has information about UAPs that it has not released. There are other explanations for UAPs than that they represent a new form of life or non-human life. Current dominant alternative theories, including those put forward by Arrow, are that UAPs are some kind of natural phenomena we don't yet understand, like ball lightning or plasma. They could also be part of some new U.S. or foreign government weapons programs, such as drones, aircraft, balloons, CGI, hoaxes, or birds. Whatever UAPs are, Congress must be informed, as must the people of the United States. We have a right to know what UAPs are, no matter what they are. However, we now have existing and former U.S. government officials who have told Congress that Arrow and the Pentagon have broken the law by not revealing a significant body of information about UAPs, including military intelligence databases that have evidence of their existence as physical craft. One of those individuals is a current or former U.S. government official acting as a UAP whistleblower. This person has written a report. This is the report that says the executive branch has been managing UAP, NHI issues without congressional knowledge, oversight, or authorization for some time, quite possibly decades. Furthermore, these individuals have revealed the name of an active and highly secretive DoD Unacknowledged Special Access Program, or USAP. The source of that document told me, that the USAP is a strategic intelligence program that is part of the U.S. military family of long-standing, highly sensitive programs dealing with various aspects of the UAP problem. The new UAP whistleblower claims that the U.S. military and IC database includes videos and images taken using infrared, forward-looking infrared, full-motion video, and still photography. The report that was just shared with Congress says Immaculate Constellation serves as a central or parent USAP that consolidates observations of UAPs by both tasked and untasked collection platforms. Immaculate Constellation includes high-quality imagery intelligence and measurement and signature intelligence of UAPs, the whistleblower's report adds. The sources of this intelligence are a blend of direct
find that right button, tap the screen,
capacities,
tap the screen, tap the
capabilities,
screen.
positioned in low Earth orbit, the upper atmosphere, as well as military and civilian aviation altitudes and maritime environments. The report to Congress details in detail various UAPs, including spheres, orbs, discs, saucers, ovals, triangles, boomerang, arrowhead, and irregular organic. The report describes various incidents found in the human intelligence databases. One involved orbs surrounding and forcing an F-22 out of its patrol area. In another incident, the crew of a Navy aircraft carrier watched a small orange-red sphere rapidly descend from a high altitude of 100 to 200 yards directly above the flight deck of the CVN, or aircraft carrier. And since my reporting on this Immaculate Constellation last month, another source came forward who told me that they saw a roughly 13-minute long, high-definition, full-color video of a white orb UAP coming out of the ocean approximately 20 miles off the coast of Kuwait. It was filmed from a helicopter. Then halfway through the video, the person said the orb is joined by another orb that briefly comes into the frame from the left before rapidly moving again out of the frame. The person discovered the video on SIPR, the Secure Internet Protocol Router Network, which the DoD uses to transmit classified information. A leading UAP researcher who utilizes the Freedom of Information Act to find out what the government knows, John Greenwald, told me last year that the US government had been increasingly denying his request for UAP information. He has been doing FOIA requests for 27 years and has an archive of 3 million pages. The government has for decades denied any interest in UFOs, he told me, but the documents that he has assembled show that behind the scenes, it was a completely different story. Contrary to the hopes of many advocates of transparency, the government has been restricting more information since the leak of 3 UAP videos in 2017. The DoD organization AARO has been labeling many documents with a B7 exemption, which Greenwald says does not make any sense. They're stating that anything AARO does is involved in law enforcement investigation, which allows AARO to not release it. Greenwald says that the DoD has denied the existence of a UAP and ATIP-related records on multiple occasions, only to acknowledge them after an appeal was filed. He added that the Naval Air Systems Command in March 2022 stated they found no additional UAP videos. It seems strange that they had 3 and only those 3, but other requests had been filed by the Black Vault, that's John Greenwald's group, to seek out more places UAPs might be hiding. Then in September 2022, the Navy admitted that the UAP-related videos and photographs existed, but denied the request in full for their release, saying that the requested videos contain sensitive information that are classified and exempt from disclosure.
They holding this conversation in the Pentagon. I think we better pull ourselves up to know some stuff.
He said the government
y'all might not want to know, but I want to know some stuff. And if you want to know some stuff, hit that, sub button. Maybe subscribe to the page. You know what I mean?
And scrubbed, the metadata can be removed. I'll show you this example here. This is a presentation from the UATP task force. This is completely absurd. It's nuts, this level of censorship, of redaction on a document. It shows the redaction of how many reports they've collected, for how many years. 2 of the 3 potential explanations are blacked out. The Pentagon, the intelligence community is treating us like children. It's time for us to know the truth about this. I think that we can handle it. Thank you very much.
He took his glasses
I
off.
would now like to recognize Mr. Gold for 5 minutes.
He's serious. He took his glasses
Thank
off.
you, Chairwoman Mace, Chairman Groffman, Ranking Members Connolly and Garcia, Representative Moskowitz, and distinguished members of both subcommittees. I'm grateful to all of you, as well as your intrepid staff, for the opportunity to testify, and would like to begin by discussing courage. Courage is what it takes to tackle this topic, and courage in the face of adversity is what I see in front of me, beside me, and behind me. Per my introduction, I am currently the Chief Growth Officer at Redwire Space and have had several leadership positions at NASA. That being said, I want to be clear that I am speaking exclusively on my own behalf and not for Redwire, NASA, or any other organization. However, I am
I
here
see
today to
tattoos
speak out
behind
for
him.
science. Science requires data, which should be collected without bias or prejudice. Yet, whenever the topic of UAP arises, those who wish to explore the phenomena are often confronted with resistance and ridicule. For example, members of the NASA UAP Independent Study Team, particularly those in academia, were mocked and even threatened for simply having the temerity to engage in the study of UAP. Our best tool for unlocking the mystery of UAP is science, but we cannot conduct.
Not yet. They didn't
proper
mention
inquiry
Antarctica
if
yet.
the stigma is
This
so
is why they
overwhelming that
don't
just
like me
daring
talking
to
about
be
moon
part of
stars
the
and
NASA research
quasars.
team elicits such a vitriolic response. Therefore, one of the most important actions that can be taken relative to exposing the truth of UAP is to combat the stigma. And this is where I believe that NASA can be eminently helpful. The NASA brand is synonymous with hope, optimism, and credibility. If you were to take a walk down the National Mall, you would immediately see the NASA logo on t-shirts, hats, and bumper stickers. Few federal agencies enjoy this kind of popularity. I've never seen anyone wearing an Office of Personnel Management t-shirt, which is why NASA could play such an influential role. Specifically, NASA could, with relatively little cost and effort, host symposia on UAP, or even just participate in existing panels examining the topic. NASA personnel stepping forward and participating in such discussions would make a powerful statement to the scientific community that UAP should be taken seriously and researched accordingly. In regard to research, NASA has vast archives, much of which may contain important UAP data. Again, for relatively little cost and effort, NASA could create an AI or ML algorithm that could search the agency's archives for anomalous phenomena. I suspect that such an effort would not only result in information that will help us to understand UAP, but could result in data that will assist in other areas of scientific inquiry, such as anomalous weather or meteorite activity. Beyond its existing archives, NASA could act as a clearinghouse for civilian and commercial UAP data. During my work on the UAP Independent Study Team, it quickly became evident that there is no clear or well-publicized process for civilian pilots to report UAP sightings. The stigma associated with UAP hampers the number of pilots that would report such phenomena, but even for those who overcome the stigma, I believe the current FAA guidance is largely unknown and poorly understood. In order to effectively collect UAP data, the independent study team recommended the use of NASA's Aviation Safety Reporting System, or ASRS. This system, which is administered by NASA and funded by the FAA, provides a confidential means for the reporting of safety violations in a voluntary and non-punitive manner. Over 47 years, the ASRS has collected nearly 2 million reports. ASRS is the perfect tool to collect UAP data, which could then be collated by NASA and shared with the public at large. Leveraging ASRS could create a treasure trove of UAP data, potentially hundreds of thousands of reports, supporting this hearing's goal of exposing the truth. And I'm grateful to our two co-chairs and other members who have already incorporated this idea into proposed legislation. At this hearing, and as others have demonstrated, the UAP issue is justifiably dominated by national security and defense. However, I would urge the subcommittees to keep in mind the numerous ways that NASA and the FAA, as well as commercial activities in the air, in space, and in the water, can generate a massive amount of invaluable data on anomalous phenomena. I cannot help but be excited by the potential for such an endeavor, since scientific discovery is driven by anomalies. It's the existence and study of anomalies that led to the theory of relativity, quantum mechanics, and nearly all of humanity's scientific breakthroughs. This is why the study of UAPs should be embraced, since whatever is occurring, the
Do they
chance
know
to
the
garner
truth? Are they
new
hiding the
knowledge
truth?
should never be ignored. We must be thorough in collecting information, fearless in making conclusions, and open to following the data, no matter how mundane or extraordinary the results may be. I began this testimony by praising the Joint Subcommittee members for their courage, and I will end by echoing that sentiment. As the saying goes, the truth is out there. We just need to be bold enough and brave enough to face it.
Be bolden.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I will now recognize myself
We
for
gotta
5
be
minutes of
bold and-
questioning. I have a lot of questions and I have a lot of witnesses. So I would just ask if it's yes or no to please just tell me yes or no. If it requires more than that, be very succinct because I would like to go down the line and ask as many questions as possible. So for the Admiral this morning first, former DoD official Chris Mellon reached out to you about satellite imagery from 2017 that depicts a UAP. What were the dates in 2017 when this occurred?
I can't share with you the details, ma'am, but I can do it in a closed setting, and I can also tell you the agency that wrote a report on it.
Okay, so who has the imagery?
I can tell you that in a closed setting.
Can you describe what was depicted in the satellite imagery? Just a description.
It was a UAP, ma'am.
That's it? No other description?
The term that the analysts used, they call it the button. It was a disc-shaped object.
Okay, where was it?
I can't tell you that, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Elizondo, you state in your testimony that, quote, advanced technologies not by our
Well,
government.
for a testimony, there's a lot of shit he
or
can't
other
say.
government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe, end quote. If these technologies are not made by any government, who's making them? Private companies, or are you implying they are crafted by a non-human intelligence?
Well, ma'am, that's precisely why we're here. The problem is that temporally speaking, over decades, not just the last 10 years, to put this in perspective, when
Are these private companies you're implying, or is this non-human intelligence?
it may be both.
Okay.
When it comes to Blue Force Technologies, I would not be able to discuss.
Okay. Are you read into secret UAP crash retrieval programs?
We would have to have a conversation in a closed session, ma'am. I signed documentation 3 years ago that restricts my ability to discuss specifically crash retrievals. I submitted for my book through the DOPSR process, which took a year for it to be reviewed. And what is in the book is what I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs? Yes or no?
Once again,
Yes.
ma'am, I'm not
Okay,
allowed
were
to
they
say
designed
this.
to identify and reverse engineer alien craft? Yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse? Okay, we already said that question.
Playing
or
around,
retrieval
right?
Programs. Do any U.S.
You
contractors?
gotta
have the
grab
same?
them. Tell us what the fuck
I
goes
would
on.
prefer to address in a closed session, ma'am.
Okay. In your book, you mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs, placed on leave, and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who have
How
sustained.
the fuck we gonna know if we seeing a craft? If we don't know there's crafts.
It's a crazy idea, right? The hypocrisy
True.
and the logic. Okay, Mr. Schellenberger, I'm going to say it again to be very clear.
He comes to a
Immaculate
disclosure
Constellation.
meeting
What's
and
the
still
mission
holding
behind
back.
it?
You playing in our
Its
face.
mission is to, as I stated, its mission is to, it's an unacknowledged special access program. Its mission is to document UAPs.
Okay, and do you, for your story and your report, do you have more than one credible source?
I do.
Sourcing, okay.
I do.
And then why do you believe your sources to be credible? How do you judge the veracity of the documentation you've been provided about this program?
I checked the sources, and they are who they say they are. They are current or former government officials. I wanted to also add that I did not specify that they were Defense Department employees. I didn't specify the agency nor the gender.
Would they have included non-government employees?
He want to
Would
say,
have- would have been
he
government?
want to say, what he really
These are-
saying is,
I'm
hey
happy
guys,
to
I
say
didn't
that
really
these
tell
are,
on y'all.
government
Even though I'm
or
telling on y'all, I
previously
didn't really tell on
employees.
y'all.
Any of them currently employed by a private contractor or private contractors?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. What's the key takeaway, just a few seconds, about the
I'm telling on y'all, but I'm not telling on y'all.
Today?
I think that what the American people need to know is that the U.S. military and intelligence community are sitting on a huge amount of visual and other information, still photos, video photos, other sensor information, and they have for a very long time. And it's not those fuzzy photos and videos that we've been given. There's very clear
High res.
high resolution.
How many
I'd rather not say. That's
visuals,
what I'm
graphics,
saying.
videos, photos?
I mean, I've been told hundreds, maybe thousands.
They
I
out-
mean,
they out
I
this
also wanted to
motherfucker
say,
like,
because there was some conversation around.
When it came to this topic, everybody was Dave Chappelle, wasn't they? Everybody that they asked, what do you have to say when it comes to UFP? Fifth? What do you got to say? 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth? How about you? Fifth? Fifth Amendment right every damn where.
concern around the revealing
I'd
of
rather
these
not
materials,
say. I'd rather
revealing the
not
source
say.
collections, but some
I'd
of
rather
these are
not
shot
say.
from helicopters
What'd he
using
say?
normal videos of
He didn't
oceans.
say.
I just think that's absurd
Exactly.
that somehow you're going to be revealing some
Oh,
secret
fuck.
U.S. technology
Circle
by
talk.
revealing that you've photographed orbs off
Circle
the coast
talk.
of Kuwait.
Okay, thank you. I have 8 seconds. Mr. Gold, did the NASA independent study team get briefed on what you call OSAP? Very quickly.
I flagged the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Investigation Program to our chair and our DFO. We did not get briefed, but I believe it is definitely worth looking into. That was probably the largest UAP review
Circle talk,
effort
my
ever,
favorite.
and I think
Okay.
produced a lot of interest data, including revealing limits. I don't know if my
Word
co-witness-
salad,
witness-
no
witness
dressing,
was
just
working.
dry ass word salad. You hear me?
Okay.
Shit dry as hell.
I'm
You hear
gonna
me?
turn to Mr. Moskowitz. who we
Freaking
recognize
word
for 5
salad
minutes of
is
questioning.
dry as
Thank
freak.
you, Madam Chairwoman. So, Mr. Gold, you gave a whole
No
diatribe. for a
dressing.
couple
We can't get
minutes
no ranch with this shit.
about UAPs, science, data collection, stigma. A lot of
CC, we
non-believers
can't get no
in all
ranch with
would
this
just
shit.
ask a very simple question: Why? Why is it so hard? Right? Like, why are people, anytime they ask, why are they always thwarted? Why are they always judged? Why is they always have misinformation spread? Why is there always retribution? Why is it always met with
They ain't trying to
veneer?
give us
What's
a
the why?
crouton
If
with
it
this
doesn't
motherfucker.
exist,
Give us
why
a
is
crouton
there-
at
why
least
is it
with
such a
this.
problem?
I think if you go through the history of science, Representative, it is always difficult for breakthroughs in new information, regardless of whether it's UAP or any other kind of discovery. And in science, we're supposed to be open, but when you break with the orthodoxy of what's believed, whether it's Galileo saying that the Earth doesn't rotate, or the Earth rotates around the sun, or the sun doesn't rotate around the Earth, it's always challenging for new beliefs. And the more extraordinary
You don't
those
want to
discoveries,
believe
the
that
more
we're a
extraordinary
damn
those new
tilting
beliefs,
fishbowl. That's
it's
what you
very
don't want to
difficult.
believe.
So I think this is natural. There's natural conservatism that when it comes to science, but this issue in particular has been very difficult where, again, even to attempt to study it becomes problematic.
They don't want to tell
But
me
every
that. They don't
hearing
want to tell
like
me that I
this,
might be seeing
every
UFOs and shit. You know what I'm
news
saying?
report,
They don't want to
every
tell you this.
video, documentaries,
You know,
as
Fire.
Frisbee
The
Parsons
movie
and
Fire in the
Dan
Sky
Field,
came out in
that's the
1979.
report, documentary over 30.
You know, we've been
different government
stuck
officials.
on that. That
Every
you know,
brick in the
laughing
wall
at the
will get us
mockery of
closer to
UFOs,
getting to the truth.
UMPs.
I appreciate that.
You know what I mean?
Mr.
E.T.
Elizondo,
You remember
the head of
1993 E.T.
Sure. I'm gonna put
movie?
I'm a recovering lawyer, so I'm gonna put my hat on for a second. You said you signed a document. Love
I
that.
don't know how else to
Who
explain
gave that
it.
to you?
The U.S. government, sir.
Upside down
Okay, you have a
fishbowl.
copy of it?
It is stored in a skiff right now. I do not have possession of it. The U.S. government does.
What department of the U.S. government gave you this document?
I will say the Department of Defense. Unfortunately, I can't say in this forum much more than that.
You specifically said the
What the
document
fuck?
said you
What-
can't talk about crash retrieval.
Then what did you hear to say then?
Well, you know,
I
you
can't
can't talk
say.
about Fight Club if there's no Fight Club.
See? Rule number
Correct.
one, you can't talk about Fight
Okay, I just-
Club.
Making an observation.
Yes, sir.
So, that document that you signed, that you said exists, specifically said you can't talk about crash retrieval.
Can't
Correct,
talk
sir.
about Fight
It was a
Club. There ain't
limitation
no
on
Fight
what
Club.
because already I'd been speaking publicly about the topic, and so the document said you can continue saying X, Y, Z, but you cannot discuss the topic.
When you
of crash
give
retrieval.
me the atmosphere of signing
Yeah.
this document. You're in a room
No,
by yourself.
I want to tell
I'm
you,
in a
but I
skiff
can't.
with a security officer, sir.
Just
I
one
can't.
on one. Anybody else?
There may have been an assistant as well. It was in a skiff within a Department of Defense facility.
Give me your background real quick.
My background
Oh
is
my God.
I went to school to study
Oh my
microbiology
God.
and immunology, entered into the U.S. Army, and after a very short stint in military intelligence, I became a
Yeah. What if he said, "Give me your background real quick," and he said, "I'm a hood nigga. I keep that coke by the pound." Y'all know what's going down. I'm a hood nigga. And I say that shit all around. You know, white, green, yellow, brown. Hey, what if he'd have jumped out there and said that, Trey? What if he when he said, "Give us your background," he said, "I'm a hood nigga." Fuck up the whole meeting, right? I'm a hood nigga. I keep the coke by the pound. Hey, dude asking questions. He firing off questions left and right. Give us your background. Tell us. I mean, you can't talk about Fight Club if there's no Fight Club. Give us your background. I'm a hood nigga.
As a civilian, later
Hey,
I became a
cancel
special
this
agent
whole
in charge
meeting
of
today.
running investigations and
They had to
counterterrorism
cancel this shit
and
today.
counterespionage,
Everybody,
primarily,
get out.
with some experience in counterinsurgency and counter-narcotics. And then in 2009 timeframe, when I came back to the Pentagon after a tour with the Director of National Intelligence, I quickly became part of a program that was originally called OSAP that evolved into the program now called ATIP, which is where those videos that we now see, where the Go Fast, the Gimbal, the FLIR,
Hold
that
on,
was
hold
part
on,
of our
hold
efforts,
on.
sir.
Right. So
Hold
you know-
on, motherfucker. Hold on. You were part of a group called ATIP, and you ain't out here disclosing nothing? The group is telling on itself. A tip? Who the fuck named this group? First and foremost, that's what I want to say. You need to better create a tip. That's all you out here giving us is a tip. I remember the last time I tried to just give a tip or something. Fucked around and ended up with a badass 3-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Last time I just tried to give a tip. Shit.
You're not some conspiracy theorist. You actually have a legitimate background.
Well, sir, I'm certainly not a conspiracy theorist. I'm fact-based, just a fact.
So when you're in this room, I want to paint the picture of everybody. You're in this room, you're by yourself, you're in a skiff, you're handed a document. How long is the document?
It's about a page front and back. So basically, you have some things they call trigraphs, which I cannot, again, talk.
How long were you
Right.
given
You
to
can't talk
sign
about
the
these
document?
diagrams that's
As long as
written
I
on the
know, sir.
page.
And what if you didn't sign it?
Well, I suspect there'd be repercussions. I wouldn't have access to certain information.
Were you allowed to ask a lawyer, or weren't allowed to ask for a lawyer to review the document?
It was an option, but they probably wouldn't have allowed me to because the
All right, my
document itself
fault.
is
I'm gonna
pretty
let him
explicit
talk. Matter of fact,
about
I'm
you have
gonna
to be-
step outside.
Putting me in an interest. Let me try to thread the needle here. There are certain documents that we have in the U.S. government that allow people to have access to certain programs, whether it's a special, and I'm going to be very generic here, whether it's a special access program or controlled access program, SAP, CAP, whatnot.
How many people have to sign that document?
It depends how many people are going to get access to the information, sir.
Okay. Last question, Doctor, real quick, can you tell us about the Omaha incident in greater detail? I've read your background, right? Some people would label you as a member of the deep state, since you worked in government for a long period of time. But can you tell us more about that incident? You've written a lot about that.
I wrote a lot about incidents like it, Congressman, but that specific incident involved the USS Omaha, the littoral combat ship of the U.S. Navy operating off Southern California. I don't remember the exact date. It was within the last decade. And what the watchstanders on the bridge observed was a UAP, again, something that was aloft but had no observable exhaust or control surfaces. So it was something that couldn't be explained. And then they saw it enter the water from the atmosphere and going through the air-sea interface. And so thus exhibiting trans-medium travel.
Thank you, I yield back.
Thank you. I'll now recognize Mr. Brothman for 5 minutes of questioning.
Yeah, we'll start with Mr. Gallaudet. During a previous UAP hearing, Navy Commander David Fravor discussed the TikTok object engaged in 2004. You familiar with the incident, the TikTok incident?
Yes, sir.
That's almost 20 years ago, right?
Yes, sir.
It's been said there are more videos, documents, and reports related to this incident. Do you believe the information regarding the TikTok incident should be available to all members of Congress? And in your expertise, what reason would the Department of Defense possibly have for not releasing information that's over 20 years old?
Thank you, Congressman. I don't think there's any good reason to withhold information and important data, especially of a national security concern from Congress.
Well, what would they say?
I will speculate, sir, that they don't want to share that kind of information because it reveals weaknesses in our ability to monitor and protect our airspace.
Okay. In your written testimony, you claim last year's UAP hearing before this oversight committee confirmed that UAP-related information is, well, it's not being withheld, but that elements of the government are engaging in a disinformation campaign to include personal attacks designed to discredit UAP whistleblowers. Could you elaborate on that statement a little?
Yes, sir. Earlier this year, I met with the DoD's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, and what I thought would be a 90-minute meeting just to meet with leadership turned out to be an hours-long influence operation on me, where I was they attempted to convince me of the validity of the very flawed and error-ridden historical records report. In addition, they tried to have me question very valid UAP reports like the Tic Tac incident, and even coming to stating possibly that the Tic Tac was American technology. And then, of course, if you ask David Fravor or Alex Dietrich, the two witnesses, they were convinced it was otherwise. And then, and they also cast discredit on various UAP whistleblowers and witnesses to question their validity and credibility as witnesses.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Elizondo. Hope I got that right, or not at least
Close
not
enough,
that
sir.
right. You're familiar with the recent drone incursion over Langley Air Force Base?
Yes, sir.
The owners of these drones remain unclear. The U.S. military has not been able to give us in Congress an answer. Given your experience with the Department of Defense and the intelligence community, how frequently are UAP sightings over military installations?
Appreciate the follow.
And secondly, I suppose hypothetically, you could have incursions over just, say, regular airports. Is it obvious these incursions are more likely over military facilities than just a random airport out there?
Yes, sir. There's definitely enough data to suggest that there is certainly some sort of relationship between sensitive U.S. military installations, also some of our nuclear equities, and also some of our Department of Energy sites. There is a long historical record that some of your colleagues may have documentation that demonstrates this. This is not a new trend. This has been going on for decades, and that information's been obfuscated, unfortunately, from folks like you in this committee. And I think that's problematic because ultimately, at the end of the day, we have a significant situation here. We have something that can enter into U.S. airspace
If y'all liking the space
no
that we
attribution.
create,
How long
share
has
the
this been
live.
going on?
Sir, decades, and there's
copy
information
the
that
link.
will hopefully be entered into the
Can you
record.
think of any possible reason why they can't release any information they have on something, say, 15 or 20 years old?
Sir, if I could echo my colleague here, Admiral Gallaudet, I think one of the big issues that we
echo.
have in the intelligence community, Department of Defense, is we don't want to broadcast any potential vulnerabilities or
Disclosure.
weaknesses in our
That's
national
your
defense
problem.
systems or in intelligence collection
Disclosure.
platforms. Therefore, when you have a conversation where you address a problem for
Transparency.
which there is no solution, it makes that a very uncomfortable conversation to have.
Okay, we'll switch to Mr. Schellenberger. The primary reason you're here today is because you published an article on the news publication that you own called Public, right? Alleging that a new unnamed government whistleblower has come forward asserting that a highly classified program exists dedicated to recovery and reverse engineering of UAP technologies. Can you give us what specific evidence you have, or that your source provided you to substantiate the claims about the existence of the Immaculate Constellation program?
Well, you have the report in front of you now, so you can see it for yourself. I checked the report and I did not find it based on existing cases. It was new cases for me. I hadn't found anybody, so that answered for me that it was not obviously circular
haven't found
reporting, which is
anybody.
one of the big concerns in this
Of course
space.
you haven't
I
found
also had the
anybody.
name of the program confirmed by more than one additional source. So yeah, and then of course I checked to make sure that the source was who they claimed to be.
Okay.
I should also say that when I said before it was this database, it is a much broader program than that. It also includes human intelligence, and then as you mentioned, the retrieval and the
Any knowledge of what country these things originated in?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay, I will now recognize Mr. Burchett for 5 minutes of questions.
Thanks, Chair.
What
Lady.
type of
Request
disclosure is
consent
this?
to enter into the record, documents provided
I
to
feel
us
like we're
regarding
gonna walk
legacy
away
UAP programs and
further in the dark.
operations throughout Elizondo.
So ordered.
Also want to thank my buddy Jeremy Corbell for providing us documents and access to some whistleblowers. Mr. Elizondo, what is your last position with the federal government?
Sir, I was the Director of National Programs Special Management Staff, managing a White House Special Access Program on behalf of the National Security Council.
How would you characterize UAPs?
An enigma, sir, and a frustration. We're talking about technologies that can outperform anything we have in our inventory. And if this was an adversarial technology, this would be an intelligence failure eclipsing that of 9/11 by an order of magnitude.
Are there classified Department of Defense materials related to UAPs that you believe could be safely disclosed to the public without compromising national security?
Yes, sir, I do. I would never, ever try to endorse providing some sort of information that could compromise what we call a blue force technology or capability. But I do believe there's a lot of information regarding this topic, and I've been very vocal about it, that should be shared not only with the public, but most importantly, with members of Congress.
Are you familiar with my friend David Grush?
Absolutely, sir. I had the privilege and honor of working with him myself several years ago at U.S. Space Force.
Last year, as you know, he testified that the U.S. has run a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Are there UAP programs operating without?
What is the reverse engineering program?
100%.
What are they?
Unfortunately, sir, I would have to have that conversation in a closed session.
I know you said that. A lot of people are frustrated with those kind of answers, but we're asking those kind of questions so you all know what the heck we're up against. You also mentioned in your opening statement that the Pentagon's Public Affairs Office employs a psychological operations.
Why you
officer
gotta
as a
disclose
singular
it
point of contact
behind
for
closed
UAP
doors?
Related inquiries. Why the heck would they do that?
Sir, that's a great question. I would ask the Pentagon. There's a long history here of that individual providing misleading and false information to the public through various news outlets and media outlets in order to discredit this topic. I've personally been victim to it. We have the documentation to substantiate where this information has been absolutely inaccurate, that has been provided time and time again. And it turns out that that individual was also working with former leadership of Arrow at the time as well.
And we punish them by giving them multi-million dollars more than they ask for every year. Admiral Gallaudet, you mentioned in your opening statement on an email you received from the operations officer of the Fleet Forces Command regarding unknown objects almost colliding with U.S. military planes. Did anyone respond with knowledge of what the objects were?
I received no response, sir.
Did the exercise get canceled?
The exercise did not get canceled.
Why do you think the commander of Fleet Forces operations officer never discussed the incident again?
Sir, I'm speculating because I didn't have an exchange with him, but I believed it to be part of a special access program, the information and the video, which we have known now it was, and he realized he couldn't share that openly with the recipients of the email, and therefore the email was pulled from everybody's account.
Again, tell us what happened to the email from the commander of Fleet Forces.
The day after I received it, and all the other recipients received it, which were all the subordinate commanders of U.S. Fleet Forces, so 1- and 2-star admirals, including strike group commanders, the email was wiped or deleted from our accounts.
Okay.
And then no one talked about it.
All right. Have you specifically had any experience with submersible objects?
See, look.
So I've not no personal experience, but I've had witnesses on submarines come to me and say they've seen on sonar data.
I'll show you right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would you
USOs.
correct?
You see right here? You see Miss Luna right here next to him? That's the person that went on the Joe Rogan show. We're going to look at that too. But Luna right here, this person, that's the person that went on the Joe Rogan show.
Characterize those and how do they move?
The one instance that was revealed to me was in the 80s on a nuclear-powered submarine, a ballistic missile submarine, that the object exhibited the characteristics of a Russian torpedo in terms of its speed of movement and closing rate with the submarine, and then it slowed and followed the submarine slowly in its wake for a period of minutes, and then rapidly exited the scene. And nothing that we know of and technology-wise could replicate that.
And the speed of these objects was faster than anything that we have or anybody else has that would be manned. Is that correct?
It was on the order
Underwater.
of a torpedo. So
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But as it exited,
Well, I don't exactly know how fast a torpedo is, but I expect it does better than my old outboard Scott Atwater, so I'll take that as a yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Have you experienced any experience with the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW?
Yes, Congressman, as I mentioned previously, I have met with them.
Okay. You heard Mr. Elizondo describe psychological operations for those contacting the Department of Defense about UAPs.
Yeah,
you mentioned
we
a similar
know, we
influence
know.
operation by ARROW. Why are
We
federal
know.
agencies invested in running information operations about UAPs if they do not exist?
They did the best they can do with
Yes, sir.
the knowledge
But
that they
I'll
had.
make a statement on Arrow's behalf. They have new leadership. The office has reached out to me to meet again, and I take that as a good faith effort, and we'll see where that goes.
Thank you, Chair Lady. I've run over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tennessee. I would now like to recognize Mr. Higgins. You're the king of Tennessee. Mr. Higgins, you're recognized for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elizondo, Mr. Schellenberger notes in the report that we've been given for this hearing. I believe Mr. Schellenberger, let me shift you, are the author of this report.
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not the author of.
Mr. Schellenberger, were you the author of this report?
No, I was
no
not.
name on it.
No,
Do you know the author?
I do.
You do, and how would you estimate that madam or gentleman, the author?
The person is a current or former U.S. government employee.
And it states here that this is the public version of the author's report.
Yes.
So where might one find the non-public version of the author's report?
I don't know the answer to that.
The non-public
Department
version.
of Defense?
I don't know.
Where can we find this
But
non-public
you do know the
version at?
author.
I do.
You know what the author's sources were?
The author's sources are described in the report. These databases, the Immaculate Constellation.
But you expressed some confidence in the sources.
See, he was about to name the Immaculate Constellation. I
You
mean,
expressed confidence. So do you
the
know
book
those
name
sources?
is the
I do.
Immaculate.
Are they within the Department of Defense?
I can't say.
You can't say or you won't say?
I won't say.
Okay, why not?
Because I protect my sources, and I think the
But
reason.
you're not naming them. It's a big department, but many of us on my side of the aisle would say it's far too big. So you're talking about the Department of Defense, sources from within the Department of Defense?
I'm not willing to reduce the
Okay.
potential universe of where my sources might be.
Okay, moving on. In this report, Mr. Elizondo, for
Bunch
reference,
of freaking circle talk.
several types
Tricking us.
of allegedly alien craft or possibly alien craft or unknown aerial phenomena, what we used to call UFOs, are described.
No, that's
Spheres
Miss
and
Green.
orbs,
This is Mr. Higgins right here.
Disc and saucers, oval or tic-tac, triangular shape, boomerang and arrowhead, and irregular or organic. Mr. Elizondo, does that summarize to you the types of craft that we're discussing today?
Sir, that is a general morphology, historically speaking, of.
Okay,
Yeah, see,
so-
change that shit
So
up.
those descriptions are very different craft. Is it your assessment that they would come of different origins?
It's possible, but it's also could be a matter of utility. And let me just state for the record, I never read the report that, or the article that Mr. Schellenberger put out. The reason
That's a
is,
good point. We're just referencing it
yes, sir.
for descriptive purposes for the American people. Mr. Schellenberger, in this report, it's striking to me that regarding the descriptions of experiences with these various craft, several of them include biological effects and several do not. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so spheres and orbs, triangular craft, and irregular or organic craft include some descriptions of biological effects, including feelings of unease, electronic device malfunctions, long-term psychological effects such as anxiety or insomnia have been noted, feeling of being watched, a shared awareness with the triangle craft, and under the irregular and organic craft, biological effects include
Yeah, this is
physical
Mr. Higgins right
sensations
here.
of warmth, of cold, and unexplained smells, and psychological distress. So these are
Just
these
the camera
are very
angle.
specific descriptions of the reactions of human beings, which allegedly have been noted from a study here, a report. All of those experiences would have been described by the sources that the author used.
I'm not sure I understand.
This is a very broad description of biological effects, and it's striking to me that they are present with relation to some types of craft, but
Right.
absent in others. This would require a great deal of research and study. Can you explain that?
My understanding is that this is, the database is very large. It includes both the images, the videos, the still images, as well as the human intelligence, the reports, the raw data from individuals having these experiences. So in answer to your question, yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at a very large amount of data collected over many decades.
And that data is held by the Department of Defense?
Well, I will say that after I published, I was told that this program, that the USAP was actually managed by the Department of Defense,
It's
but
changed
held
to
at the White
ATIP.
House.
Roger
But
that.
that's a single source, and I don't have multiple sources to verify that.
Thank you, sir. I did my best to trick an answer out of you.
And you did trick an answer
Madam
because he
Chair,
said that it was under
Thank you. I now
USAP,
recognize
which
Mr.
is now
Fox for 5 minutes of
ATIP,
questions.
and they're
Thank you,
part of
Madam
the
Chair.
Department
In
of
addition to serving
Defense. So
on
you
this
did get an
committee,
answer
oversight
out of him.
committee, I
Appreciate
also
it.
serve on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, where we often discuss how essential data and evidence are used in science and used at departments such as NASA. During a hearing, NASA Administrator Nelson affirmed the importance of NASA in helping us to understand UAP. Mr. Gold, if the government doesn't have the data it needs on UAP because, say, someone who saw something is concerned about stigma, public backlash, etc., or maybe there's just not good systems in place, how are we supposed to ultimately figure out what's going on?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And let me compliment Administrator Nelson that there wouldn't have been a UAP independent study team if it wasn't for his leadership and courage. We're talking about data and where we can get data from. As I described, NASA has whole archives of data, much of which I believe.
Now, I want y'all to understand what you're hearing, right? This person stated, right, that these UAPs are having effects on people, right? And they named some of the effects. You just heard them name some of the effects that they're having on people. So that means some way, some shape or form, you're going to feel drained. Maybe a lot of us are coming in contact with UAPs. Maybe at night we don't know it. Maybe some of the stuff that's going on in our atmosphere is some link to it, right? Feeling drained on certain days, right? Feeling unease, so on and so forth. Some days your sleeping is off in the middle of the night, right? This all could be connected to whatever it is that's going on.
Will likely have information that will help inform UAP. We need only look. And again, in an era with AI and ML,
Y'all make sure y'all hit
we can
that follow
relatively
button and hit
quickly
that sub
go
button.
through it. So I think it's something that we should encourage NASA to do. However, per Chairman Groffman's
Hey, we looking some more subscriptions over on the TikTok page, man.
Sites, I believe there's something.
Hey, listen, on TikTok, if y'all like gaming, if y'all like keeping up with what's going on, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, man. I'm trying to keep the page safe. I'm trying to build a nice place for people to come to and, hold conversations, so on and so forth. Feel free to join the Discord. Feel free to, come up in the box, make this home your home, and let's keep listening.
You may have heard of called sensor bias. That because we've got more cameras, more monitoring of national security, we don't know how extensive UAP activity may be over civilian areas. And this is to the second part of your question, where we're not collecting the data. We're not collecting sufficient data from pilots. We're not collecting sufficient data from civilian and commercial activities. And this is, again, where ASRS, I think, could substantially change that, get the data out there, and allow us to do good science.
Thank you. I mean, on the
Appreciate the
data,
follow-up.
I'm a really big proponent of transparency. But obviously there's always a little bit of balance that we have to have in government on transparency as well. I mean, last year, NASA appointed a director of UAP research in response to the recommendation by the independent study team. In the final report, there's a quote: "Despite numerous accounts and visuals, the absence of consistent, detailed, and curated observations means we do not presently have the body of data needed to make definite and scientific conclusions about UAP." Can you just talk really quickly about that balance of security and transparency?
So I can say, having served at NASA, it is the most transparent organization I've ever been in. When we would have conversations of executive leadership, things would leak out almost instantly. So I can assure you, intentionally or not, NASA's very transparent. I don't know if many of you have worked with engineers or scientists. They love to talk. So I believe that NASA is a paradigm of transparency, but we must have the ability and the data to be able to be transparent with. And if we're not gathering that, if we're not looking at it, then we can't bring NASA into the game and get to that good science that you need.
You know, it was about a year ago, I was touring a facility with a pretty senior government official. We went by a certain hangar and they said, yeah, that's, you know, a company leases that out. We don't really know what's going on in there. We have no way of knowing what's going on in there. And there was a few of those, in fact, while we were driving around this facility. To what extent do you think that some of the UAP out there comes from off the books or unauthorized experimental aircraft?
I mean, I think probably the vast majority of UAP are
Make
drones,
sure y'all sub to the
experimental
page.
aircraft, weather conditions.
Hey,
which
Tony,
again, when I say
make
we
sure you
review
sub
data,
to the
I think we can
page.
discover a lot about things
You're
we
gonna
weren't
be
even
in here
thinking
running
about.
your math.
But there is a percentage that isn't. And looking into those anomalies is how discoveries will be made. And relative to science, Congressman, if I can say, when NASA studies black holes, when NASA studies galaxies, we have instruments that are tailored to do so. With UAP, we're using cockpit gun cameras or cell phones. We could never do good science with that. And let me tell you, the NASA budget is under pressure. We need to make sure that the Artemis program is funded fully. We need to beat China to the moon and maintain our presence in low Earth orbit. So now.
What? What the fuck you mean beat China to the moon? I thought we already been to the moon. What the fuck? What the fuck? What'd he say?
NASA would need more money to do this, but I think tailored instruments that would look at UAP in the same way that we have tailored instruments.
That's, you know, a company.
Need to do this, but I think tailored instruments that would look at UAP
No,
in the
say
same
that
way
one
that
part.
drones, experimental aircraft, weather conditions, which is again why I say if we review the data, I think we're going to discover a lot about things we weren't even
Yeah,
thinking about.
he just admitted
But
that
there
we
is a
ain't never been
percentage
there.
that isn't. And looking into those anomalies is how discoveries will be made. And relative to science, Congressman, if I can say, when NASA studies black holes, when NASA studies galaxies, we have instruments that are tailored to do so. With UAP, we're using cockpit gun cameras or cell phones. We could never do good science with that. And let me tell you, the NASA budget is under pressure.
Must
We
be
need to make
another
sure that
moon.
the Artemis program is funded fully. We need to beat China to the moon and maintain our presence in low Earth orbit. So,
Oh,
NASA
he's
would
talking
need
about
more money to do
Saturn's
this, but I
moon.
think tailored instruments that would look at UAP in the same way that we have tailored instruments to look at astronomical data is important to gathering valuable and uniform information. If we were studying black holes by using fighter cockpit cameras, we probably wouldn't know that much about black holes.
100%. Well, I think it's important that federal leaders take the necessary steps to ensure that UAP does not pose threats to the American public as well, and that we have the necessary budgets to collect this data so we can actually see what's going on. And I'm fully supportive of funding
Where's
the
Luna
Artemis
at?
mission.
We need
It's
Luna
very
to ask
important.
questions.
Also, a personal note,
Where's
the
Luna?
pilot is a frat brother of mine. He is a member of the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and so I would love to see my fraternity make it to the moon.
But Redwire is building the cameras for Artemis, so we will take some pictures of your frat brother and get them.
There we go. Thank you so much. I yield back.
Thank you. I will now recognize Ms. Luna for 5 minutes. of
Here we
questioning.
go. Come on.
Mr. Elizondo, to your knowledge, can you name the country and around time frame that the first back engineered UAP program started?
Ma'am, unfortunately,
See how this motherfucker looking like Wonder Woman.
Can anyone on the panel name that? None of you? Okay. This next question is for
She's still up there asking
Gall-
questions.
Gallaudet. To your knowledge, have any USOs ever outpaced our submarines?
Yes, ma'am.
At what magnitude?
I don't have the exact speed, but again, a witness came to me, a credible former submarine officer who observed it on.
She at the table trying to get
sonar data.
disclosure.
And this was in the 80s in the North Atlantic during a storm, and it outpaced his submarine by orders of magnitude.
Are you aware of any hotspots that currently exist off our shores in North America?
Not with sufficiently credible data, ma'am.
Okay, we've heard reports of there potentially being hotspots, maybe entry and exit points. Have you heard of any of that?
I have not, ma'am, but my colleague here, Mr. Elizondo, does discuss some USO activity that he's observed in certain DoD databases.
Mr. Elizondo, in regards to these aircraft being piloted by whatever they might be, non-human biologics, would you agree that it's likely that they are being piloted by some mind-body connection?
Ma'am, I think it is safe to presume here that they are being intelligently controlled because some cases seem to anticipate our maneuvers, and in other cases they seem to, I came across an email where the word "stalked" was used in a very secure email.
Premeditate y'all maneuvers.
Ships being pursued by a UAP.
In our previous panel, we had Grush, and he had testified to say
You hear what
that
they saying,
these were
right?
interdimensional
The ships
groups.
is
Can you
connected
speak
to
on
the
that?
minds.
Ma'am, I'm not qualified, certainly as a scientist or otherwise, to speculate points of origin. I looked at everything from a scientific perspective. So if you look at, for example, instantaneous acceleration, which was one of the observables of the program that I belong to, ATIP, the human body can withstand about 9 G-forces for a short period of time before you suffer negative biological consequences, blackouts and ultimately redouts and even death. Comparison, our best technology, the F-16, which is it's an older platform, but one of our most highly maneuverable aircraft, manned aircraft, made by General Dynamics, can perform about 17 or 18 G-forces before you start having structural failure, meaning that the airframe begins to disintegrate while you're flying. The vehicles we're talking about are performing in excess of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Gs.
So are you...
Because there's no pilot in there. These vehicles are performing like this because it's connected to the minds of the person performing it. So it can do maneuvers that it can't do with a body in it. With a body in it, it can only go to, the 9G, 90, however. But that's why she's asking, like, are you familiar with it be connecting to the mind or the body in some sort of way, so on and so forth?
to infer that they're living craft?
I'm not prepared at this point to state for the record is something alive or not, because even that definition is, there was a time in science we thought that life required oxygen, and we now know that's not true. There are anaerobic bacteria that thrive in oxygen environments that lack oxygen. And so also same with photosynthesis. When I was in college, I was told everything is derived from photosynthesis as a form of energy. In reality, that's not true. There are things that live off of chemosynthesis. So we're constantly having to reevaluate our understanding of what the definition of life is.
Mm-hmm. Do any of you ever come across reports from people that claim to have firsthand experiences with these entities, whatever they might be, or these aircraft, and then as a result, whether or not they're religious, find that these things will automatically disappear? Anyone, this is open to any of you on the panel. So just real quick, because I'm running out of time. Lou?
Ma'am, I've always been a nuts and bolts kind of guy. When I was at ATIP, I was focusing more on the performance characteristics and less on the potential occupants.
Okay, the reason I ask is because it seems like, just based on our conversations, that we've had people that say that there are good and bad of whatever these things are. And so my concern from a national security perspective is A, that true? B, are you guys hearing reports of that? And C, I think moving forward in regards to technology, Mr. Gold, if you can answer this real quickly, some of these aircraft, it seems that they are operating off of energy that we don't currently have. But just yes or no, in your opinion, if we were able to obtain that, would that impact humanity for the better?
I would probably give this name something like Andromeda, or something like that. Like if I had to name this verse or this reality, I would give it some type of galactic name, right? Because it has all the variables, right? A sun, a moon, other planets that you can explore. So many different human variables down here. Oceans that you can explore, different levels of densities, 88 constellations. With all of my giving knowledge, I would have to give it one of those type of games, names. I mean, you know, we can look at it and say, you know, the battle of the beasts, if we're looking at it from a man or human perspective concept, right? If we're looking at it from a spiritual, we can give it that type of name. But if we're looking at it from the galactic point from which it stand now, shit, this is deeper than Stargate. This is, we in Star Trek right now. All we gotta do is build, you know what I mean? We need Spock to come holler at us, couple of Klingons, you know what I mean? That's all we need, shit.
We're negative.
We into the thick of it.
Save us some money on funding.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
We at this point, we all the backyardigans. We the backyardigans. You know what I'm saying? Let's be honest, guys. We the backyardigans. They got us out this motherfucker sitting in our homes talking about we got the whole wide world in our yard to explore. You know what I'm saying? Only thing you need is a snack. That's it. This shit right here.
And this is a national security issue, that if there is such technology out there, we're not the only country that might have access to it.
You know?
We don't want to be on the wrong
hey, listen,
technological surprise.
listen. We PBS kids all over again. You hear me? We PBS kids all over again. We gotta learn anew. We gotta be out this motherfucker. We gotta change the whole song up. You know what I'm saying? We gotta change the whole song up. We gotta change it up. Aliens in the sky. I can go twice as high. Just take a look. It's in the book. The things you don't know. You know what I'm saying? We gotta change this whole fucking thing up. You know what I'm saying? We got to change every stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can know everything. Which ways to go and things to know. A reading rain. You know what I'm saying? We got to change this. Everything must change as we knows it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
All right, thank you. I will now recognize Mr.
Aliens
Garcia
in
for
the
5 minutes.
sky.
Thank you, and I
The
apologize
government
for
wants
stepping
to
out. My
lie.
governor is here
You know what I'm
upstairs
saying?
going
I think
through
I'm gonna write that. We about to change this whole song up. You know what I'm saying? Aliens in the sky. The government wants to lie. Just take a look. It's in the book. The things you don't know. Yeah, we about to do that. We PBS over here.
in between meetings, so I apologize for that. I want to just start by just asking everyone on the panel or witnesses, and I had a chance to read all the testimony before, but just to set the agenda, just if we can go down real briefly, do you believe, just for the record, that the federal government, any part of the federal government, is knowingly concealing evidence about UAPs from the public?
Yes, sir.
100%.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. I also want to just go down
Some
the line.
bit.
I know many of you have
So
already said this, but just for the record.
wait. These are the people who are in charge of this, or they're in charge of finding this stuff out, but they can't get the clearance from the government for this stuff. But they want to fund NASA. What the? This is circle talk. This is all circle talk.
Again, just briefly, what do you believe UAPs?
The thing that got me was
could
the
be
way
or
it shot off, kind of.
Strong evidence that they are non-human, higher intelligence.
No sonic boom. Anyway.
I echo my
Yeah,
colleague's comment, sir.
probably shifted through dimensions. That's
Genuinely
why.
do not know.
Don't know, but we must find out.
Make it make
Okay,
sense.
thank you. I appreciate those answers, gentlemen.
You gotta make this
I
shit
think
make
this is obviously
sense.
another remarkable hearing with this really important information, so I thank all of you for answering the questions. Admiral, I just want to go back to one thing. Now, last year, our subcommittee heard from 2 retired Navy pilots, Lieutenant Ryan Graves and Commander David Fravor, regarding UAPs. Actually, I think Ryan is here in the audience and been a great person to get to know and to have conversations with. He, of course, has been involved in the Safe Airspace for Americans Act,
with Chairman Graves, with Chairwoman Mace for UAP reporting by civilian aviation personnel. Can you discuss briefly why it's important for civilian pilots to be able to report UAPs and why these legal protections are critical for our national security?
Yes, Congressman, thank you. And I did invite Ryan Graves as my guest, as I'm on his advisory board for the Americans for Safe Aerospace, and legislation that you supported and introduced, I fully support as well. And I think it's important that more civilian pilots, commercial pilots report so we can better understand and learn and do research on UAP, as well as remove the stigma so more citizens report on what they observe. And also it'll only contribute to aviation safety when we have a better understanding of where these UAP are, how they operate.
I know it's more people that have seen this shit.
Level. So it's important for aviation safety, and it'll be important for moving science and research forward.
Thank you, sir. And I just want to reiterate to my colleagues, I mean, this is a very bipartisan piece of legislation, and we just got to continue to get this through the Congress.
Now, you really want to search the score like that?
Civilian pilots have the opportunity to safely report the UAPs that they are seeing or encountering in the air. And I can't express how critical this piece of what I believe is a larger collection of evidence and facts actually happened. We've been approached by pilots. I've talked to folks that have been engaged with our office and others, and there is still enormous stigma.
Hey,
and
TikTok, let's tap the screen. Let's get the 20K likes.
Free to be able to report what they're seeing. So I just want to reiterate that that advocacy. Mr. Gold, in your testimony, you discuss NASA's aviation safety reporting system, a confidential, non-punitive reporting mechanism. In the Safe Airspace for Americans Act, we explicitly allow for civilian reporting, of course, of UAPs. Can you explain why the NASA task force recommended the use of the aviation safety reporting system?
The aviation safety reporting system is an existing system that is trusted.
How did
it
I
has
get
taken
so
hundreds
lucky?
of thousands, now millions of cases.
How did I get
and
so
again,
lucky?
recognizing budgetary constraints, this seemed like the perfect way to be able to gain more data. And when it comes to the stigma, sir, it's something that pilots are used to reporting on, that crew is used to reporting on. So it's a great way to get data to overcome the stigma without spending really that much more additional money since the system exists. Thank you so much for your support of that.
I'm
Thank
feeling
you for
good today.
does.
2 back-to-back follows. I
To
take
expose
it.
the truth of
Appreciate
UAP
y'all.
for the purpose of this.
Follow y'all back.
Thank you. And I just want to also add, now, earlier this year, as part of the House Defense Authorization Bill, the NDA, I filed an amendment to include the UAP Disclosure Act, which would create a UAP Records Review Board and exercise with exercise of eminent domain over UAP-related material, modeled actually on the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act, which is widely known. Now, the amendment was blocked.
Okay,
but
there we
thankfully, the Senate
go. Another
included
follow.
the amendment by Senator Rounds and Schumer for the UAP Disclosure Act. So I just again want to say that we should be pushing and ensuring
I do.
the UAP Disclosure Act, which is bipartisan in its support, should be.
We're going to be gaming later on, so if you like to watch the game and kick it, be in good company, it's the place you want to be.
The UAP Disclosure Act would be critical for us and our national security.
Have a meeting or ask them what you want to call.
The UAP Disclosure Act is important for national security, as well as advancing potential socioeconomic benefits resulting from UAP research.
I know, man. We just want the truth.
Safety, as we refer to
just need to get the
regarding
truth out there. You know what I'm saying?
This act will allow for greater transparency and open research, and that's why I'm also a member of the UAP Disclosure Fund as an advisor, as in the Soul Foundation, as an advisor, senior strategic advisor, which is advocating for the same.
Where is this fund at? Where is this disclosure fund? How do we get in touch with them?
Madam Chair, thank you for holding this meeting.
How do we get in touch with them? Aliens been visiting me my whole life. I could never talk about it. How do I get in touch with these people? Huh? I've been in touch with aliens my whole life. How do I get in touch with them? Huh? I need the AT&T or ET phone home or something.
Thank you to the witnesses. Admiral, the video that is called the Go Fast video, the email that you've talked about being deleted, I just want to briefly cover this. You said that the email, the author was asking whether
don't come out the bushes to laugh at me.
Demonstrations that could explain
don't
the
pop out the
objects that were
bushes to
observed.
laugh at me. That's
And then
terrible.
you said the email disappears.
Don't pop out the bushes to laugh
and
at
you
me.
guys have a series of meetings The commander of fleet forces and his operations officer never discussed the incident.
This
Again,
Mr.
that's
Biggs
not-
right here.
That's accurate, sir.
Mr.
And,
Biggs.
even during weekly meetings, it was never discussed again. My question for you is, you were in those meetings, did you personally hear that nothing was going on about that?
Yes, sir, I was in those meetings, and
Did you make inquiries about that?
no, I did not, sir, because I inferred, since I had been read into other special access programs, that this UAP video was part of one that I was not read into, or any of the recipients.
I need to join
or
the program.
author of the email, and that. and
We
intelligence-
need to get in touch with Luna. That's who we need to get in touch with. Anna, Paula. This is who we need to get in touch with right here. This is who we need to get in touch
No one
with.
would be able to access it anyways because it would be protected, right? That's what the Bible says.
Arabic. Well, wouldn't you want someone who could fucking
Now,
decipher
y'all,
Arabic?
hey, everybody on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the page and put your notifications on. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking it's Friday. We're going to do a discussion of, the Bible, apocalypse, and all the things that are in the book of Revelations. And we're going to comb through the history of it. And I got some special guests that are going to come and be a part of the conversation too. So I got some other content creators that I'm trying to reach out to be a part of this, and hopefully we can have a great discussion Friday about a lot of this biblical stuff, end of times talk, so on and so forth. So we got some great things coming up and some great things lined up over on YouTube for you guys. So hopefully you guys, hit the sub button and be a part of it, all right?
To do this?
We don't know how far it went, and I definitely have questions, but this would not be the first time that a government would have looked for something, especially because people theorize that the Ark of the Covenant had these abilities as a super weapon.
I know, but I'm saying
Yeah.
like the remote viewer is limited by his ability to understand the language. Stop. Scroll back up, please. There, right there. So it's somewhere in the Middle East. Visuals of surrounding buildings indicated that the area, the presence of mosque domes. Individuals in the area were clothed in virtually all white.
So this is just
had
some of
black
the
hair
stuff
and
that
dark
they're
eyes.
keeping.
One figure I honed in on wore a mustache. The target is hidden underground, dark and wet, were all aspects of the location of the target. See, the only problem I ever have with these things is if these places are all controlled by terrorists and it's all, dictators and crazy people over there. If they found out that the Ark was there, they would fucking take it.
Well, I think there's this aspect of, if you look at from a biblical perspective, no one would be able to access it anyways because it would be protected, right? That's what the Bible says.
We are definitely going to get into this Bible topic. We're definitely going to,
to open the container,
try to bring
the
some
mechanisms
like-minded
of lock
people to the
systems that
table
we
with
found
this.
be
It's going to be
fairly
great.
simple. Individuals
Hope to see
opening
you
the
guys
container
here
by
for it.
prying or striking are destroyed by the container's protectors
Well, what's interesting is, remember, in the Bible, it always talks about how there had to be like a...
through the use
Yeah.
of a power unknown to us.
They melt you, remember?
Bro, yeah.
Well, so they had to, go through this special process of being considered,
This is where the
holy, basically,
Stargate
access.
comes
So,
in.
all that to say that there's something out
Friday,
there,
yeah, I
right?
think it's going to be
that
Friday. I
honestly,
think
God's real,
Friday is
this
going to be the
job
better
has
day for opening up the
definitely,
weekend for it.
you
So
know,
Friday,
put me in a position to where
Friday
we're able to
afternoon,
help
maybe.
get other truths out there, if you will. And
You need to get the truth of that thing out there. They need to find out. Like
Dear
that.
Director
Like,
Ratcliffe,
you know
as
how
you
much
look into
the
the Ark of
world
the
would
Covenant.
change if you found the actual Ark of the Covenant, and you could explain a lot of things. Like, look, if these Ethiopians have it, which Graham Hancock believes.
Allegedly, they do.
Yeah, Graham Hancock believes that they do. And he said that these guardians, they all get cataracts, they die of like radiation poisoning.
I mean, there's something to be said about the Ethiopian people as a whole, and going back to the Ethiopian Orthodox text. Actually, when I first launched this task force, I actually went and I met with a Ethiopian Orthodox pastor, if you will, just to kind of see and explain and ask questions that I can't exactly go to, the Smithsonian and ask. And, his response was interesting, especially from their perspective. You have a lot of this aspect of, I think, religion that tries to be doom and gloom. And then in the Ethiopian perspective, he's like, first of all, your timeline's wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean your timeline? He's like, well, the biblical text in modern day Christianity, it's a little bit off, right? So we use a completely separate, I think it's
So we're definitely going to explore
he's explaining
this.
all of it. And he's like, but even then, so,
Ethiopian Bible,
we
the
don't have
Book
the
of
perspective
Enoch,
of,
Book of Revelations.
we are in end of days, etc. But the way his perspective just seemed very optimistic as opposed to pessimistic and filtering and controlling information. All that
He's
to
probably
say,
not online.
he's off X.
He's
off
off
X.
He's off X. He's off TikTok.
Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
subjecting
The
himself.
New York Post thing about that says that the viewer was identified with the target and didn't know what it was, and it ended up being the Ark of the Covenant after all the explanation they found.
Oh, well, that's much different.
Yeah.
So that whole thing at the end of it was what they were saying it was when they wrote it on that
If you look
report.
at all the, it's just a bunch of words
Yeah,
they're
so
putting together.
that's the Luna person that's up there.
Thing called the Joanides file, and George Joanides was actually he's basically our version of James.
The book is considered to be heretical. Another reason for the exclusion.
Orthodox Church that actually.
So
there's
this is some of the
Ethiopian
stuff we're going to
Jews,
look into
and that's
Friday.
considered the most pure form of the Bible. So like you actually have a division of like the Ethiopian Jewish class that actually recognized Enoch.
How weird is it that some rabbis 500 years ago made a call?
But that's what I'm saying is like you
1500 years ago,
you
rather,
can't though
made a
discredit
call.
it because
That's kind of weird.
But you can't discredit it because, again, like when you have people removing books, I think, look, and I'm not telling people what to believe. I'm just saying you should take a look at it.
Oh, here it is. The main reason for the Jewish rejection of the book is that it's inconsistent with the teachings of the Torah. From the standpoint of rabbinic, how do you say that? Rabbinic Judaism, sorry. The book is considered to be heretical. Another reason for the exclusion of the text might be the textual nature of several early sections of the book that make use of material from the Torah. For example,
I don't know. First, we will have to explore what is the Ark of the Covenant before we can understand what is in the Ark of the Covenant.
Reason for rejection from the Hebrew canon at this period, as is illustrated by the comments of Trypho the Jew when debating Justin Martyr on this subject.
By the 5th century, the Book of Enoch was mostly included from
your
Christianity, biblical
expositions are mere contrivances, as is plain from what has been explained.
You gotta
by
stop
you,
using all
many
caps.
Even blasphemous.
You gotta stop
to
using all
assert
caps.
That angels sinned and revolted from God.
So it was a.
If you use
Seems
text
like
talk,
some people made a decision.
use
that
text
something
talk.
shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, but that's the thing is it's a disagreement in religion and perspective, but they should have still not removed it. And so it's interesting because then you have, the
say
evolution
you
of what the
believe
King
it's the
James
broken
Bible
Ten
is. We all know that
Commandments?
story. He wanted to get remarried. They rewrote it. But you even have the Catholic Bible that has, it's what happened.
Right.
You have the Catholic Bible that had books that were taken out, and then
Right.
we have the King James. So I'm not saying that, if you read the King James, you're not getting, you don't have access to that. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that there's a bigger picture here that we need to discuss. And I
Well,
think
there's
you have
always
to
a problem when people get involved.
different. I think it's like anu is like the root term that's used for it. So
Have you read the Zechariah Sitchin stuff?
no,
Hey, do you know of it?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
So see,
that's the most fun.
that's why we're going to get
Well,
into this.
I
I
will
read
say with,
Zechariah
all
Stitchin's
of that
Earth
going
Chronicles, back to
if you read
Genesis.
Enoch and then
I read all of
about
that.
The fall of
So this
mankind
is going to be a
and
great
the
conversation
angels. And this is
Friday.
Christian theology,
I'm
right? So,
telling
like,
you guys,
angels came
it's
down,
going to be
rebelled
something.
against God, interbred with humankind. That would be, I think, a good starting point for what.
So yeah, that's going to be a great conversation. I'm telling you, like, make sure you're here for that. That's going to be a great conversation.
Yes, sir. I was in those meetings, and
Did you make inquiries about that?
no, I did not, sir, because I inferred, since I had been read into other special access programs, that this UAP video was part of one that I was not read into, or any of the recipients, or the author of the email, and that an intelligence agency basically pulled it back and instructed the author of the email, hey, this is, you just conducted what they call spillage into a lower classification level. And when that's done, the procedures are basically to remove any of the communication.
You're going to silo it. So, and you, Mr. Elizondo, you said in your report and your testimony today, a government work on the UAP subject still remains classified. Excessive secrecy has led to grave misdeeds against loyal civil servants, military personnel, and the public, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. Fair?
Yes, sir.
All right, and all of you, and Mr. Schellenberger, by the way, I've read several of your books, Mr. Schellenberger, excellent stuff. What I would say too is, you were asked about the veracity of the author of this report. You comfortable with veracity?
Yes.
Okay. And then, and I'll get to you in a second, Mr. Gold. We'll talk about Kuhnian and Lakatoshian scientific advancement and how we're obviating that through these processes. But we'll get to that in a sec. Because what I want to really get to is the ultimate question it really becomes this. For what purpose is the federal government overclassifying, because that's what they're doing, they're overclassifying, and forbidding the public for getting access to this? And if you know, if you have an explanation, I'm curious, because I know what I've been told. I just want to know from your perspective, why do they overclassify? Mr. Elizondo, you look like you're finger on the button, ready to go.
Yes, sir. Forgive me. I think there's several reasons. I think at the time when this reality became evident to the U.S. government, we were in the middle of the Cold War with then Soviet Union, and we did not want to tip our hands to what our knowledge base was on this topic. We did not want to broadcast that to
the Cold War's long over.
It is, sir. It is, sir. There's also then the philosophical argument that the Department of Defense and the intelligence community is solution oriented, and when you don't have answers, it's a really tough spot to be in.
It's easier to be quiet and suppressed than if you don't have the answer.
Indeed, sir. In fact, there's a very real example.
Oh, so it's got the secret of manna. It's got the secret of the manna that was given in the desert.
Russia, and we're taking reconnaissance. And when we first started flying the aircraft, it flew so high and so fast we thought they weren't tracking us. In reality, they were tracking every flight. It wasn't until the Russians could develop the SA-2 surface-to-air missile and successfully shoot it down.
I would suggest to you also, along with Lakatos and Kuhn, you also have a problem with Kenneth Arrow's path dependence or increasing returns. That's one reason why they won't disclose it. It's too painful to admit. But I just want to read a couple things from Mr. Schellenberger's, what he gave to us today, because I think this is interesting stuff, and I just want to convey this to you. On USG networks, there exists infrared footage of and imagery of a grouping of vessels engaged in SIGINT and mass collection at night in a specific area of the Pacific Ocean. This footage, which was in close proximity to the vessels, a large equilateral triangle UAP suddenly appears directly over the ships. These three bright points are seen at each bottom corner of the UAP, which is observed to slowly rotate on its horizontal axis. And he goes on to describe that. And I just want to read one more, and I'm doing this because I think it's interesting. This stuff is interesting as anything. So let's get this one here, right here. While performing a routine airspace surveillance and control mission in the Eastern Air Defense Sector, an F-22 fighter observed multiple UAP contacts at mission altitude. Moving to intercept the F-22 pilot noted multiple metallic orbs slightly smaller than a sedan hovering in place. Upon vectoring towards the UAPs, a smaller formation of metallic orbs accelerated at rapid speed towards the F-22, which was unable to establish radar locks on the presumed hostile UAPs. The F-22 broke trajectory and attempted to evade, but was intercepted and boxed in by approximately 3 to 6 UAPs. And then I'll leave that there, but because I just have no more time left. Well, she's not looking. So let's just get into, let's get into part of this.
I thought I would be saved by the bell.
No. Let's talk about Kuhnian, Lakatoshian type of scientific development. And the problem that we have here is you have institutional blockage of what would be normal development of scientific ideas. And if you want to expand that, Mr. Gold.
We're over time, so be very fast, please.
I'll just say I'm a recovering attorney, so please take it easy on the science, but all breakthroughs have been heretical at first, and that's the challenge that we face, particularly with something as extraordinary as this, which is why gathering the data is so important. And I'll just end by saying, by the way, the overclassification of material is in no way limited to UAP. That is occurring throughout the government, as well as the inability to get people classifications in a timely and efficient manner, and then to have those classifications be broad enough to be useful. So this is a larger issue that I hope that Congress will.
Thank you.
Yes, I
Thank you, Mr. Biggs. I've been generous.
I mean.
All right, Mr. Burleson, I'll recognize you for 5 minutes of questions, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elizondo, does any branch of the United States government or defense contractors possess technology?
Sir, there's documentation that I believe was submitted for the record that was approved for release by the U.S. Pentagon, by the Department of Defense Office of Pre-Publication Security Review, and it states one of the reasons why my predecessor program, OSAP, was trying to collect material of unknown origin.
Was it successfully collected?
It was not. What happened is that there was an aerospace contract company that requested to divest itself of the material that was collected in the 1950s. Unfortunately, that didn't actually occur.
So let's dive into that. That's the Bigelow Airspace, correct? So
yes, sir.
There was a journalist, Christopher Sharp, who said that there was a transfer between Lockheed Martin, Bigelow Aerospace, and the CIA allegedly blocked this. Can you describe that?
What I can say is that it was blocked. Why it was blocked, I can only surmise. I was part of some conversations later on with some of those contract personnel where they had told all of us that is accurate. What we required was a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force in order to make that complete, and that never occurred. And so when Secretary Mattis became Secretary of Defense,
All right, y'all. Our numbers are doing good over here on YouTube. On TikTok, they're doing great on TikTok. We are going to be journeying down this rabbit hole of knowledge, wisdom, free information, and I'm going to put together a table to help me gather and find more knowledge and wisdom in this world and bring it to you guys. So if you're on YouTube, hope you put your notifications on, hope you hit the sub button, hope you are looking forward to the journey. I already got 2 people at the table. I think a good table of 13. We're looking for 10 more people. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I prefer to deal with women. They are more open-minded. Men come to the table and they want to try to do this whole battle of wits thing. They want to try to do this whole, you know, anything you could do, I could do better. I just need willing people, you know, so if you want to join, come over to the Discord. We'll get a feel and an understanding. It's really just about searching for the knowledge and bringing it to the table. I'll be the mouthpiece to articulate it and bring it to the people. But, you know, I need a group of people behind me, helping me gather it and helping me, you know, put it together in a nice order to bring it to the people. So that's what we're doing. We also have the physical journey of the retreats. We'll be headed to Cobos Landing for that journey. South Carolina, we have the boys. So, you know, we're going to be doing that. We also have some other places in South Carolina that we'll be headed to, so on and so forth. So we got great things happening, great things, you know, going on. Anybody over on YouTube that likes to play the game, wants to, or feel free to come over to TikTok. We're going to be gaming soon. So we're going over there to set up for the game to run that. For the people that's on TikTok, we're going to go through a quick reset where we reset and start the game. So we're going to start the game and we're going to do that. The numbers dropped under 50. We did great numbers. I already seen a bunch of numbers come through. We was stagnant around like 60 YouTube. We like 60 and 89. So we did great. Over on TikTok, we had 4K people come through. So that's great. We had 4K people come through over on TikTok. You know, so on and so forth. So that works out. And you know, to be honest, we just moving towards that greater notion of youth, greater notion of understanding. I hope you guys, you know, just join and be a part of it. You know, because great things is happening. I promise you, great things is happening. Good people all the time, you know, and I'm glad you all came and kicked it with us. Remember, if you haven't heard that you are loved today, let me be the first but not the last to tell you that I love you. And I believe in us. You know, I believe in us. I believe in peace. I believe in, you know, the freedom of a lot of things. So I think we can come together in unity, in light, in love, and bring forth a greater notion of, you know, collective, you know? And, you know, everything that's going on right now, it's happening for a greater reason. It's happening for a greater reason. We don't know the reason why it's happening. Nobody really knows. That's why the universe is a mystery, right? That's why it's one great mystery, right? It's one great mystery because of that. If you happen to come over and you come in from the YouTube, let me know. Let me know you coming in from the YouTube. All right? Other than that, man, love is love, man. I hope you guys have a great day, man. Keep growing, keep building. And, you know, to be aware is to be alive, okay? To be aware is to be alive. So we're going to do great things. You guys got great things coming to you. I got great things coming to me. Let's speak positive and prosperity into the atmosphere. Let's use our tongues to unite and use our voices to be heard. Love and light to everybody.